So I'm in Fort Lauderdale, right? I was invited by my company to go to a conference in Fort Lauderdale. It's an aviation, airport conference, essentially. This was just a couple weeks ago. And there's a gentleman, we're at the Omni, Fort Lauderdale. And whenever we first go to set up our booth for my company, I'm out in kind of the lobby. It's up on the 5th or 6th floor, whatever it is. And there's the expo hall. And then outside, there's a big, just kind of gathering space, if you will. And a gentleman walks in, comes off the elevator, and he's blind. This is a true story. He's got glasses on. He's got the stick. And typically someone like that will have someone with them to either talk next to them, kind of guide them a little bit, hold their arm, whatever. This guy's riding solo, which I think is very brave, and I'm glad that he has the confidence to do that. Anyways, there's a lot of people standing around socializing, just hanging out, in pairs of 3 or 4. Anyways, he's making his way through this room. And if you've ever seen a blind guy, they take that stick and they kind of just move it back and forth, right? So that they can find hit an obstruction. I'll turn this way a little bit, keep walking. This gentleman, and I see this from across the room, so no one standing next to me noticed it, but there is a group of 3 people talking. It's 2 gentlemen and a lady, and the lady's wearing a dress. And he walks up behind her, and like I said, this walking stick is going back and forth, and it just times it up perfectly so that as he's walking, the stick slides from left to right and goes between her legs. So if it had hit her foot, it would have been perfect, right? If it had hit her left foot or her right foot, it would have been perfect. He would have seen, there's a group there. I'll turn to the left and go this way. It went right between her legs. So obviously this gentleman just keeps walking. And if you're holding a walking stick 4 feet off the ground and it's between somebody's legs, this man, I feel so bad because obviously he's visually impaired, but walked right up and the stick just went right between her legs until he about ran right into her. Oh man. And it was one of those things where you're in conversation and you see something out of the corner of your eye, like across the room. So, and it's a professional setting. So, you're not going to laugh or bring it up or anything like that. But I stored that away in my mind. I said, I think the podcast would like to hear about that. But yeah, if you can imagine just a group of really professional people talking, whatever. And then this guy just walks up and just puts a dang walking stick right between this lady's legs and then runs it all the way up. You know what I mean? Oh, it was a little sad. It's kind of like a train wreck. Like you hate that it's happening. She probably felt embarrassed. I don't even know if he really knew what happened. But also you can't look away. You know what I mean? You got to see how this turns out. So obviously they were like, you're blind, no big deal, but that was one that on the inside, I really had to hold it together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it makes me, I wonder if it was actually an Impractical Jokers skit where they put sunglasses on this guy. They put a earpiece in him and they said, now put your walking stick in between this lady's legs. Impractical Jokers would probably never do something like that, but that is funny. Do you know what they call a visually impaired man who runs into a person with the first name of Justice?
I don't.
Obstruction of justice. Huh?
Mm.
Huh? Anybody? Anybody?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Well, that was a little punny. What else did you get yourself into Fort Lauderdale, aside from elevators?
Fort Lauderdale, man, I'll tell you, right. I'll tell you what, it was, like I said, we stayed at the Omni, very nice hotel. I think it opened maybe 6 months before we went. So just, I mean, brand spanking new. Very nice, but it's one of those situations where if I'm talking a lot throughout the day, it's people that I know and people that I converse with pretty regularly, either people that I work with or people that I'm friends with, and sometimes both. But these networking type events, you're talking to people that you don't know or barely know, you've met them once or twice. And that's from like 7 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. So honestly, it was a little draining. And I sound kind of whiny saying that because like all my meals were paid for, you go out to nice seafood dinners and steakhouses and stuff like that. But, it was definitely more exhausting than a typical day from my social fuel tank was on E at the very end of it. That's what I'll say.
Certainly. And so at this convention for the planes, of course, you are at a booth and you are in a way trying to recruit people toward you so they will contract with you in the future. What does the game plan look like of your team going in? I want to accomplish this. This is success for this week.
Well, a lot of it really is, so much of construction is relationships, like with subcontractors, consultants, obviously on the owner side, design teams, things like that. And so there's not a ton of general contractors at this expo or conference, whatever you want to call it. But there's a lot of vendors and there's a lot of design teams. And so oftentimes the design teams will work directly with the airports, like let's say, Orlando MCO airport will work with a handful of design teams. So if you can build a strong relationship with some of the design teams, you find that sometimes you have a leg up on getting future work. So it was really kind of a business development type deal. But like I said, there was also a lot of vendors that we would hire who were trying to connect with us as well. So it was a little bit of both. But I think success looks like, hey, go out there, make connections that we didn't already have, strengthen the relationships that we do have, and kind of get our brand out there, get a little more name recognition. I didn't go last year, but the people that went last year that also went this year said that there seemed to be more people who recognized us in the community, the aviation construction community, if you will. And that's really the whole goal.
That's phenomenal. I think that's what they call compounding interest. And interest in this sense is literal. Your interest in D'Angela's diamond is compounding upon itself. And that has to do with your investment, not just you as in Christopher, but you as in the company. And your stay at the Omni Hotel, 4 stars, bad pillows. So I read on a Google review. You could probably tell me.
Yeah, I'll say this. The first couple nights, it's so hard because at these hotels, as Stetson says, they put like 6 pillows on each bed, right? And so the rooms are in a block for the conference. So my room had like 2 queen beds in it. And so I have a total of like 10 or 12 pillows. I like a flat pillow. I tried to find the flattest one. The first couple nights, my neck was great. The last night, my neck got jacked up. It had a serious crink in it. So that was a little devastating, but it didn't ruin the stay. I wouldn't say. It was just the next day. I really couldn't my neck couldn't go past 90 degrees here to the left. So, but otherwise it's very good. One of the best parts about it was the people watching. Like you said, the unfortunate situation with the visually impaired individual. But even at, the lobby bar, you're sitting there with some folks just chatting, and you look around and there's some really interesting characters. I saw one guy who, I kid you not, he looked exactly like President Taft. Are you familiar with him?
Billy Taft, as they call him.
Yes. Previous governor of the Philippines, most known for getting stuck in the bathtub at the White House. He was thick with 2 C's, as they say.
And tubs.
I think they had
tubs were smaller back then. Tubs were smaller back then.
Tubs were smaller, and actually, little known fact, that's where the nickname Tubs came from for chunky fellas, for fat people. Hey, Tubs. They call them Tubs because Taft got stuck in the tub. You probably didn't know that, but that's a little American history for you.
That's beautiful. And then that transformed into Teletubbies, which is
that's right,
rather large telephones. So I hear.
Yes, the reverse hourglass body style, came into effect after that. But you look across.
Now they say your body is T, which would be the reverse hourglass. And so we've just gone through a journey from Taft to T, and I think that's a title of a beautiful book. But anyway, onward.
But yeah, I saw this guy look just like Taft. And at first I thought, is that Colonel Sanders? And I said, no, that's
was he in
William
the tub
Taft.
when you saw him?
He was not. He was actually
stuck in the tub.
It was odd because everyone sitting at the table with him was dressed like they were from the 21st century. He dressed like he was from the 19th century. It was so odd, like kind of a Colonel Sanders vibe, but his face looked like Taft, big white mustache, And then I also saw a gentleman at the bar kiss another man on the forehead. And I've done that to you. You've done that to me. It doesn't always have to be homoerotic.
Biblical love.
Right. Yeah. I think it's First Thessalonians. Greet the brothers with the holy kiss.
100%.
And he was doing that, but he also yelled something about mushrooms after he did it. So I don't know if they were on some sort of psychedelics and that was just kind of bringing out that homoerotic side of him or what it was, but he kissed him and it was not like a little peck. It was a
sloppy.
It was a juicy one on the forehead. I thought it was going to get more X-rated, but that's where they stopped. So, very friendly guys. They look like best friends, maybe a little more than best friends. But then,
that's always a good baseline.
Yes. That's, I'm not going to say, yeah, agreed. So, but yeah, I was just watching a lot of people. I was like, man, some of these folks are just a little over the top, take some mushrooms, go to the bar, kiss my friend. Who knows what will happen?
Yeah. 100%.
Could be a brother. Yeah. So it was wild though. Lots of appetizers that we ordered, carpaccios, escargots, squid, octopus, things that, just exotic foreign things,
Right. Dolphin.
Like porpoise.
Yeah, the illegal kind.
Yeah.
Just to get that on the record.
Not mahi, but actual like bottlenose.
That's beautiful. Well, it's been a week. We shared a little bit about the goopcation last week. I didn't know if you had anything you'd like to share. We also talked about aviation already, and I think we share a common denominator in our aviation lives, and that is a teacher, which is profound because school starts today for those who are listening on the release date. And that's Scott Erickson. And Scott Erickson I don't know what he's up to these days, but he is one of the great aviation teachers in the land. I believe he's won Teacher of the Year, not just in aviation, but of all school. And we've had some wild memories. He shared with us a little bit about the Blue Angels. Any kind of core memories in that classroom for you?
I actually do have a core memory. It was my freshman year. I think you probably took it in the freshman year as well. It was an elective. So
aviation,
I'm sitting
that
there.
is.
Yes, aviation. Yes, aviation. Not mushrooms or anything else. Kind of weird, but he made a very strong stance against no cell phones in the classroom. And I'm sitting there, and there was a large gentleman who sat behind me. He was a couple grades older than me. He was in my brother's grade. And he actually played football with my brother. His name was Quindarius. He was about 350 pounds. And to be quite honest with you, I don't know how he ended up in the aviation class. We also had a Japanese fella who's very Japanese, like hardly spoke English, sat right next to him. And one of the days, Quindarius asked him if he'd ever seen Tokyo Drift, which I thought was hilarious. I freaking died laughing. He's like, "Man, you seen Tokyo Drift?" So good, dude. Anyways, that was one core memory. The other one was he made a hard stance against cell phones. No cell phones in class. And at the time, freshman year, it was an exciting time in my life. I'm kind of talking to this girl. She seems interested in me. I like texting her, things like that. And so she sends me a text in the middle of class, and I have my phone in my backpack just to keep the temptation away. Anyways, I see it light up in my backpack. So I kind of lean over, act like I'm, looking for a pencil in my backpack or something. I'm actually checking a text from this lady, this exotic lady that I was texting. And all I see is all I hear is Scott Erickson say, "Give me that cell phone," in a very, very strong voice. I said no cell phones. I'm confiscating yours. I'm not doing a great Canadian accent or Minnesota accent, whatever he had. No cell phones. That's probably more like it. And being a freshman in high school, my blood runs cold. My face turns white. I kind of hang my head, drop the phone in my backpack. And he's looking right at me. He's walking towards me. And so as I go to reach into my backpack to grab my phone, he walks past me and stops at Quindarius's desk. Apparently Quinn was also texting, and he didn't see me. He only saw him, which is unfortunate. Not for me, for him, obviously. But that was a core memory that I had. And, I still remember to this day, I was like, when you're a freshman in high school, you're trying to do the best you can. And I was sure I was just done for that day. But luckily, something saved me.
Quindarius.
And then later on, Quindarius, he saved me. He loved Tokyo Drift. Big Fast and Furious guy. And then later on, when I was a senior, I didn't even know if Mr. Erickson remembered me or not, but he came into Maria Pool's class before school. I was the president of the Beta Club. And, he said to Miss Poole. He walks in, he goes, "Is this the cabinet meeting for Beta Club?" She goes, "Yes." And he goes, "Oh, Brett, are you in Beta Club?" I said, "Yes, sir. I'm the president." And his face was pure shock. I was like, "Dude, don't look so surprised. All right." Jeez Louise. This guy like thought I was going to be bagging groceries at Publix for the rest of my life, I guess. So, those were two fun Scott Erickson moments. Obviously we got to build some rockets, but that was pretty, kind of status quo type stuff for that class. But, yeah, he was an interesting cat.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think I chose the class out of peer pressure and interest. He did a little presentation during our 8th grade years to kind of promote this class, so I took it. But I've never been fascinated with the planes in that regard. The rockets to create, it wasn't that interesting to me. But what was interesting to me is the first 3 weeks of that class, our assignment for 50 minutes a day, which is how long the period was to watch him ride in a Blue Angels. And he'd pause every 5 minutes, say, "The G-force on this is wild, guys. The G-force, you're never going to notice." And he was very proud of his time.
I was literally about to say, he would stop it, be like, "The pilot just pulled straight up on the stick. You wouldn't believe it. I'm pulling 6.5 G's right now. Look at the look on my face. That's 6 G's.
There was a moment in the plane where I almost vomited and I couldn't. The G's were too much. A normal person would have vomited everywhere, but me, I'm Scott Erickson. I'm unstoppable." So anyway,
no doggy bag.
no doggy bag. His favorite phrase is "you don't know," followed by something that's obviously we would know. So he did tell a story about him confiscating a phone, and this was his story. "You don't know what happens when you take somebody else's phone. They get upset. Last year, I had a guy punch a wall and break his hand because I confiscated his phone. You don't know." Scott Erickson, if you're listening, this is a celebration of your life, brother. This isn't us making fun of you. Except I am going to call out something interesting. You have a personality type, my friend, where you think people are automatically against you and attacking you. Here's where I see this most often. 3 times within the span of 2 weeks, you raised your water glass and you thought for some interesting reason that we were going to accuse you of you drinking vodka on the job. If this was vodka, the ice wouldn't be floating. But the ice is floating. So it's water. And Scott, I just don't know what to tell you. Great Scott. That's what I got to say.
Great Scott. I really did. I enjoyed his class. Like, aviation is always, always piqued my interest, if you will. So I really, really did enjoy his class. I'm like, I'm not really planning on being a pilot. So, don't really see the need in taking the aviation class 3 or 4 years in a row. But I enjoyed it. There were a couple times where, he made the vodka defense out of thin air. And I was like, dude, every teacher drinks water. Nobody's ever accused anyone of this, but he was going out of his way. I guess, to each their own. He just wanted to be really sure.
Right. Protecting that baseline. And like he established the baseline for our aviation understanding. I think that's beautiful. Well, any memorable things that you did this past week that are worth mentioning?
I don't know about this past week. I feel like work was pretty standard. I got to go back to, my church project in St. Pete that we finished up last December. So got to spend a little bit of time with the folks up there. I'll be back up there tomorrow. So it's always good whenever you form a relationship with folks for about a year and then that's kind of how it works in construction, right? So you grow a relationship and then you move on to the next project and don't see somebody for 8 or 9 months and get a chance to go back and see them. So that was really good. Yesterday was Saturday. So we had the Chastains over for dinner. So that's always a blast, letting the kids run around a little bit. We did do a water table Saturday morning. We have the water table in the backyard. And the new thing that we've started doing is putting shaving cream on the water. And that is really a game changer to the kids. They love it so much just because it's this foam, kind of smells weird. And they just rub it all over their bodies. They don't even do that in the bathtub. I'm like, hey, I'll put some soap on them. Hey, scrub yourself down, like trying to teach them how to wash themselves. Not interested. You spray a giant, dollop of shaving cream in their hand and it's straight over the head, the face, their whole body. Every inch of it is covered in shaving cream. While they were doing that, we live right next to a preserve. I'm sure the wetland preserve is right behind our house. We saw what I thought originally was a dog out of the corner of my eye, but as it was running, I saw that its coat was shiny and sleek, and its tail was like kind of pointy like a rat, and its back kind of did that little slanky thing it does. It was a river otter, and it was running right between my house to the backyard to the preserve back there. So I really wish I could have caught it and, made a shower rug or a bath mat, right? Because their fur is just so warm and so lush. Yeah, but premium. Unfortunately I didn't have a firearm on me as I was just outside playing with the kids, unfortunately,
If you were a real man, you would have had one tucked in your belt.
I know. If I had stayed strapped, could you imagine? The kids are just playing in the water table. I just pull it out and just start blasting.
It probably smelled the shaving cream. It was like, I need to be a part of that.
They might have.
And your kids were probably more susceptible to rubbing their bodies with the shaving cream because they saw their daddy also out there shaving his chest in full broad daylight with the shaving cream. So,
but that was really the most interesting thing that happened. Today at church, we served in the nursery. That's always a blast. The kids, how do I say this? I don't throw all of my parenting, tactics out the door necessarily, because we watch the early walkers. So it's like, 18-month-olds to 2 years, something like that. 1 year to 2 year, basically. And they all if someone gets upset, I'm like, all right, goldfish, let's go. Just shove a bunch of goldfish in front of them. Just eat, dude. Stop crying. Whereas with my kids, I'm like, hey, you need to stop crying. But with some of these kids, I'm like, look, I don't really, I'm going to give you back to your parents here in 45 minutes. So I'm going to just fill you up with goldfish and send you on your way. And that always works for the most part. But yeah, that was this morning. And then this afternoon, we had Andy and Karina over for dinner, had some barbecue chicken, a little pasta salad, and some sort of vegetable. I can't recall the vegetable. But it was delightful. It's really been a very nice weekend. So
it's beautiful.
How about you?
Pretty standard week on the front end. I'd been gone for about 2 months off and on. I counted 13 different beds within the past 2 months, and many of the beds were not, let's just say they weren't the Omni. I'll say that much. aside from the pillows, it might have been the quality of the pillows. And you can hear my voice. I'm getting a little emotional just thinking about it. But I returned to a normal schedule this past week, excuse me. So that was great to kind of get in a rhythm and routine of work. I'll start on Thursday. Thursday, it's time for an oil change. And you know my history with cars. And we've had Phyllis. We've had all the way to Phyllis to basically a covered $20,000 expense, if you include all the rental cars, etc. All the way to Javier, who made me, or tried to make me, pay for another drive belt within 4 months of each other. When I looked up on the internet, I said, how long does a drive belt last, Google? And Google says normally between 60 to 120,000 miles. Well, I hadn't driven 60,000 to 120,000 miles between my drive belts. So I told Javier, brother man, we've got to check this out because I just purchased one my last visit. You can't make me do this without it being covered. And sure enough, I ended up being right. I was stepping out in faith. But honestly, it was more of a lack of belief in Javier and his team that he was telling me the truth because I had just spent the money on that. Anyway, that was my last trip to the Jenkins Hyundai of Ocala. They got me fixed up correctly. This time I go, this is Jenkins. I go and I search up Jessica Roberts, sweet young lady of the Lord. I don't know if she's following the Lord, but she was made in his image, so the statement holds true. I walk up to her, I say, Jessica. Well, actually, no. She walks out to my car. She talks. She starts talking. We make eye contact. She says, "Oh, how's it going?" She remembers me. That's 5-star service right there. She probably remembers me because my car was at the shop for 10 months and my license plate got stolen under her watch. So that would be one of the reasons to remember somebody. But that's neither here nor there. We are now talking about this moment at Jenkins. I get a coupon in the mail the other day. It says $35 off of your oil change, but synthetic oil you have that's not guaranteed. Well, I've got synthetic oil, so my coupon isn't necessarily valid. Well, I let them do all their work, the express oil change, and Jessica calls me. She says, "It's ready." I pull out my coupon. I say, "Ma'am, I've got my coupon here." She says, "What's it for?" And I look down at the receipt. And she says, "I've already got you, sweetheart." And she did it without me even asking or presenting the coupon. Wow. It was beautiful. And it was on synthetic oil, so I got a great deal. We exchanged just about how our personalities. I shared, look, I just say yes to a lot of things and hope for the best. And so if you're going to give me that coupon, I'm going to say absolutely, my friend. So I went on my way. That evening and Thursday was the first football game of the season in the National Football League, the Hall of Fame game presented by the Cardinals and the Panthers, where you saw Carson Beck and Haynes King play one another. And I follow football, but it was actually fun to have the gynecologist, as we mentioned last week, the Big Red Machine, Mando Bando 51 here to kind of guide us through that experience together. And so he knew all the terms, all the lingo, what people were expected to succeed in the game, and it actually turned out being a great game. Haynes King ran the ball in for a touchdown as the clock expired to win the game. So that was thrilling. Friday opens up. Friday morning, I hit a leg workout with Josh Dixon, and we absolutely obliterate them. You know, this is fascinating for our listeners, and I don't know if you know this, but leg workouts are the things that increase your metabolic rate more than anything. That's number one truth. Number 2 truth, it boosts your testosterone. That's man and female for however long. So a great strategy truly would be to hit legs on, well, my job starts on a Sunday. I kind of view my work week Sunday through Thursday. Many people start Monday through Friday. But you're going to hit legs the day before you begin working because it boosts your testosterone, which testosterone leads to productivity, focus, etc. In general, I'm not a scientist, but this is what I've learned. So anyway, that was for free. We might start charging for more advice like that in the future, but we'll have to consult Rodrigo on that. Friday evening rolls around, play tennis with my boy Kevin Pham. That was great. We thought it was going to rain. It actually rained halfway on my way to the courts. And then all of a sudden the skies cleared up. The Lord had something larger in store for us, and that was tennis. So that's to be celebrated. One of the things over the past 2 months that I've missed deeply is pickleball. And we hit the courts. We returned to the courts on Saturday morning. This was the Mando Bando, the Big Red Rasheen, and J-Dog 0103. That was quite the neck crack. I don't know if our listeners could hear that. He's still recovering. Yes, you're still recovering from the Omni Hotel.
I'm doing my best, man.
And so, again, you can't beat pickleball. We ran into this Hungarian gentleman named Timmy. He had just finished a stint in Hungary eating pork every single day. His comrade, Christy, she's a vegetarian. So Timmy, the Hungarian, he was sharing his thoughts on pork and, the great pork stew and goulash and great things like that. And Christy was shriveling. She looked like a prune by the end of it. She literally proclaimed, "Timmy, I'm pruning. Timmy, I'm pruning." And Timmy just wouldn't stop. He kept on going on. He said, "We had pork knuckles with my cousin." I was like, "Timmy, I'm looking at Christy. you gotta
pork knuckles?
Pork knuckles."
What in the world? I'm assuming Timmy is not a Jew. That's probably a safe assumption, yeah.
Timmy, I've never seen a gentleman love pork as much as Timmy, but my life was changed after that interaction. And I just envisioned, and Timmy, he was a soft-spoken young man, though he did blurt out a couple of rude language, but it was in a soft manner. But he was speaking of his Hungarian family and how large they were and how bald they were. And Timmy was not this. Timmy was orphaned as an adult. I know a lot about Timmy, to be honest with you. I've got to... It's not funny.
How do you go from Timmy's family is bald and gordo to... You know, now that I think about it, Timmy was actually orphaned as an adult, which I don't even know if that's possible.
So it's true. It's true. It's quite the sentence. But this happens when your family moves you to a new location, like a new country. You grow up, you become independent, and then your family moves away. This happened to Timmy. His family... He was speaking of his whole family lineage, but they started in Hungary. Then they moved to America, the States, in Indiana, where he was born and raised, or at least raised. Now he lives in Gainesville. Whenever he turned 18, his family, but he stayed. He went to school. His family moved back to Hungary. So now Timmy is orphaned as an adult, which just means... your family has left you to go to. They haven't disowned him. But he spent the month in Hungary with his family. It was beautiful. He was sharing about his previous experiences, the way he sweated. Whenever we arrived, he had his sweat stain was in the shape of Mickey Mouse on his stomach. So I hit him with, "Oh boy, Timmy, you want to play pickleball today?" And so that was good. And then there's all kinds of other characters out there. We had a gentleman who every other point he'd go to the towel like he was on the professional tennis tour or pickleball tour and wipe the sweat off his brow and forearms. And he was getting smoked every game, so it was fun. It was funny at that. That was Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, I attended the Richardson wedding, which this is Shelby Jones, Grant Richardson. They were wed as one this past weekend. It was a beautiful witness of matrimony of the highest degree. And so there's things to be celebrated there. But before I get there, I skipped over a key thing on Friday evening. Have you heard of Saucy's?
Oh, is that the restaurant that took over Big T?
PDQ. Oh, sorry. No, that's something else. It might be the same name. Saucy's is KFC's chicken drive-thru. It's like Raising Cane's, but KFC.
Okay.
So
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. Well, I've never been until Friday. So I get done with tennis. I'm like, man, the Lord's leading me to some sort of fried chicken item. And so that's where I land.
The number of times I've felt that, man.
That's where I land. So I pull up in the drive-thru. No one's in the drive-thru. I get to the drive-thru. They say, wait just a minute. We'll be right there with your order. Well, I thought that was great because I had never been. So I needed a few moments to examine the board. Well, a few moments pass, and then a few more moments pass. And 5 minutes later, literally 5 minutes later, they say, all right, sorry about the wait. What can I get you? And no one's in the drive-thru. The parking lot's rather empty. So I go through and I get the food quick. I come up to the drive-thru window. I flash her my card. She says, oh, I've never seen a purple card before. I said, you can't get that here, my friend. That shout out Penn Air Federal Credit Union. Safe up to $250,000. FDIC backed. Refer me. You don't get any
Big
privileges. Bag. Yeah. Well, anyway, so I'm on my observation list. I'm looking to my left through the drive-thru window. This lady is dancing the entire time. She's dancing as she's putting the chicken in the bag. She's dancing as she's filling up my drink. She can't stop dancing. She's one of the most high energy, not as high energy as Liz, the volunteer server, but
of course,
she is pretty high energy. So she wishes me well with my fried chicken. I thought it was fine. The experience was interesting. But what I really wanted to get to was whenever I turn left, there's a patio for Saucy's outdoor seating. No one's out there except two people. Well, these two people, it's a Friday evening, and it seems as if they're on a special time together. It actually makes me think a lot about the two brothers who were exchanging sloppy wet forehead kisses at the bar and the Omni Hotel. Well, there's this young lady and young man who are taking a selfie in front of the Saucy's. But it's no ordinary selfie. You know, they got some music playing in the background. There's a little hip swaying going on. And think about if there were, I'll put it this way, if there were three of them and they were in a single file line, it would have made a sandwich. Now, if you remove one piece of bread from that sandwich, the space between the meat and the bread did not change. And so there was a lot of skin to skin, if I can say it that way, at the Saucy's at the Saucy's on a Friday evening. You never know who you're going to run into, and you never know what you're going to witness. So what I did was I kept my window rolled down. I just bumped the music a little louder. I had some soft jazz rolling, instrumental saxophones, of course, in my car. I bumped the music up. I say, keep it going. You need help taking the photograph? And so that was a beautiful moment shared between the three of us. And I celebrate. It got steamy at Saucy's on a Friday evening. Well, that leads me back to Saturday, where it also got steamy on the dance floor at the Richardson wedding. We did a lot of boogieing. We got a lot of steps in, a lot of sweat was going on. Me and Jackson, my brother, your brother-in-law, we hit the dance floor like no one's seen, I'd say. And we had to bust out a couple of fresh moves. It was truly an honor, a great wedding to witness between two lovers of Jesus. I'd argue they love Jesus deeply and generously. And that's something to be celebrated. It was a great worshipful moment. You know, matrimony, as they say, makes no sense apart from Christ, because really it's not matrimony. It's just a legal documentation. But that's maybe for another podcast, because frankly, we don't have the time to get into that. Well, that was great. That leads into Next Gen Sunday. This Sunday, we kick off a new series called Kingdom Family, and we talk about generations and how you have a tendency to have three different chairs in a generation: the committed, the compromised, and the counterfeit. So the whole thing is, if you're not passing down your faith, if you're not leading your children or the next generation well, your faith, say it's a committed faith, will sow seeds, reap less commitment through the lineage. There's a book on this about every 3 generations. It resets, this cycle resets. So it's quite a fascinating thing, and actually makes me think of Timmy, the pork-knuckle master, because his family left him as an orphan, and he had a decision to make. Do I go back to Hungary? Do I go to make a life here on my own? But his family's decision impacts his future family more than he knows. And so, and more than we can see on this earth. I think that's adds a certain weight to our leadership as followers of the Lord, certain weight to our influence, and helps us live in our family with a great purpose of something much greater than ourselves. That was my week in a larger than life nutshell. I can't thank the Lord enough for giving me the breath to accomplish some of these items and be a part of some of these items. I count it a great honor to be here today.
It sounds like an incredible week. As you were talking, I realized that I perhaps forgot the most interesting thing that happened to me all week. I forget these things. Oftentimes I will write things down in the notes on my phone so I don't forget. But this was just such a humdinger that I totally forgot it. So if it's all right with you, I might backtrack a little bit. Maybe we can snip this into my portion of the week.
We'll have to consult with Rodrigo to see what he says, but go ahead and share, and then we'll pass it along.
Yeah, we'll see if he cuts it out. I'm leaving work Friday. I'm the last one at the trailer, so I'm locking up. It's probably 4:15. Some of our friends had invited us over for dinner, and so I'm thinking I'll probably get there around 5:00. You know, leave out a little early on a Friday, and where our trailer is at the airport is kind of on a dead end road, if you will. And, I go to lock the door and it starts raining. Like, right. We have a deck. And it's raining. This guy pulls up in a van and he rolls the window down, and it's this old gentleman, real old. And he's trying to say something to me, and I'm up on the deck. It's got like a tin roof. It's starting to rain a little harder. I can't hear anything he's saying. So I'm like, give me 1 second. I'll lock up. go around to his door. He goes, I'm looking for the Holiday Inn. It's kind of broken English. I'm looking for the Holiday Inn. And I say, okay, let me get on my phone real quick. Cause he doesn't have, he's at the age where he wouldn't even have a smartphone of any sort. That would be my guess. We pull up, I'm thinking he's probably in his late 70s. I pull it up on my phone, Holiday Inn. Oh, there's one a mile away, close to the airport. I'm trying to give him directions. You're going to want to go east till you hit the 7-Eleven, then make a left, and that'll take you right to it. And he just looks so confused. I was like, all right, I'll take you to the intersection and then I'll show you where to turn. He's like, all right. So I hop in my truck. I'm driving real slow. He's coming behind me. I'm like waving him, he rides behind me, and at the intersection where he's supposed to turn left, I'm going straight. And so I slow down, I put my blinker on, and I roll down my window, and I'm pointing like left, turn left. This is the intersection, turn left. Man stays right behind me, doesn't move at all. I'm like, oh my goodness, this dude. I'm like, what are you going to do? I'm convinced he would have followed me 45 minutes all the way to my house if I hadn't done anything. So we get on the main road, and the speed limit is 55, and there's two wolves inside of me at this point. One says, all right, man, you can kick it up to 85 miles an hour and lose this dude and forget about him, for the rest of your life. Or you can quite literally drive all the way to the Holiday Inn and just have him follow you there. So my conscience got the better of me, and I decided, all right, I'm going to drive this dude to the Holiday Inn. We go around. It's like the long way because we missed the initial turn, right? So I make a big loop, come all the way back around, pull into the Holiday Inn. The Holiday Inn has been transformed into a DoubleTree by Hilton within the last month or so, because my phone says Holiday Inn, but the sign says DoubleTree. So I pull into the parking lot, and I'm like, hey man, I think this is where you're supposed to be. Cause he told me, he's like, I've been driving around the airport for an hour trying to find this place. So I'm thinking surely he's got to be close. And he says, oh, this is the address. I'm like, dude, you had an address the whole time. You didn't tell me the address the first time. I pull up the address. It's a Holiday Inn on Clark Road, which if you don't know, that's like 4 exits south on the interstate. It is quite literally 45 minutes to the south of where we're currently at. Oh, so I pull it up. I'm like, brother, it looks like you're going to have to get back on the interstate. Like, this is going to take you some time. And he was just so dejected. He was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'll pay you. Like, can you please take me? At this point, I was like, I got to lead this man to the promised land. Honestly, like I can't just leave him. If I had dusted him on the initial go around, he'd still be out there driving around 3 days later. I fully believe that. So I'm like, all right, hop in, let's go. So I'm taking him on back roads, because if I get on the interstate, he doesn't go over 40 miles an hour in his work van. So we're driving all the way down. I'm like texting Molly, hey, I can't really explain it, but I'm going to be super late. Just give me a call when you get a second. She like looks at my location. I'm at a Holiday Inn. Hey babe, I'm going to be 2 hours late. I'm at the Holiday Inn after work. That was going on in the back of my head. Right. And so, I finally get there. It's like 5:15. And he gets out, and I'm like, all right, this should be it. And he's like, yeah, this is the right place. And proceeds to tell me his life story. And I'm like, brother, I was like, he's like, I'm so sorry about that. I was like, no, you're good. I live right down the road. That's a lie. I live an hour to the north, but no biggie. So he tells me his story. He's like, how old do you think I am? And I thought he was probably in his late 70s, but I was like, I don't know, 65. He's like, I'm 85 years old. It's like, what are you doing driving around told me he's from Tampa. His wife is disabled. She's blind and can't walk. So they have a, in-home care. He was there.
Did his wife happen to run into?
He's like, you won't believe it. My wife was in Fort Lauderdale last week. But no, I honestly, by the end of it, I felt so bad for this guy because he was like, kind of far from home. He lived in Tampa. This hotel the next morning was doing like an electrician license renewal class. So that's why he had to be there. And he's like, my daughter and my wife want me to stop working, but I just can't do it. I've been doing this for 70 years. And so I asked him, I was like, do y'all go to church anywhere? He's like, my wife and my daughter, they go on Sundays, but I don't go, all they want is the collection plate. I was like, well, and before I could say anything, he's like, but don't worry. I'm a Roman Catholic. I've been a Roman Catholic my whole life. I was like, all right, that checks out. But no, I, prayed for him in the parking lot. I was like, man, I hope everything goes well for you. And then went on my way. But it was, when you think, when you leave work a little early on a Friday, you think you're going to go over to some friend's house, kick it, just relax. And then you go on a 2-hour excursion across all of Sarasota with an 85-year-old gentleman driving very slowly behind you. It's a little different than what I had in mind, but I hope he was able to get his license renewed, his electrician license. And I'm hoping he was able to get back north to Tampa. I don't know how he made it that far, honestly, because he was in rough shape, very rough shape. So it's a really sad situation, but hopefully I was able to, provide some sort of assistance. So,
I think you were. I think that's a beautiful testament to letting the Lord lead your footsteps and your cars specifically. But that doesn't happen without a willing servant, and that's you. And so that's something to be celebrated. Well, as we wrap up, any final thoughts for our listeners? Any things that they need to hear from you?
I don't think so. I think just, in those situations where you're thinking about driving really, really fast away from something that, you're perhaps the Holy Spirit is telling you to do something else, is telling you to do the right thing, it's probably best to listen to that voice rather than driving away as quickly as you can. Because I was very close to it, but in the end, I couldn't bring myself to it. So that's my word.
That's strong. That's a strong word. Well, as we always do, but not really, but we're bringing it back. What song have you listened to this week that has made your heart palpitate a little bit?
Let's see. The song Work Boots by Cody Johnson. That's been heavily in the rotation the last week or so. How about you?
I'm going Friend of Mine by the band Solstice. It's a remarkably vibey song. And after my soft jazz encounter, that was the next song on the queue at Saucy's that I turned up. I just let it blast. So if you're looking for a song that'll make your hips sway and your heart palpitate a little bit, Friend of Mine by the band Solstice, can't recommend it enough.
That's incredible. I'll add that to the list. I'm excited to give it a listen.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, as always, my friend and listener, if you can leave us a review, that's the most expensive and greatest gift you could give us is a 5-star review. Someone, I believe, rated us 1 star on Spotify, and it brought our rating down to a 4.3. So we're going to need a little better ratings. I'm unsure as why we would get a 1-star rating unless it was Miss Bell who listened, which would make sense actually. But that was, that's in the past. We can't be focused on that. We can only be focused on the future of loving our listeners deeply and generously, because we do love you deeply and generously. And that's why we're going to see you in 7 days.